As Central Africa deals with its worst outbreak of yellow fever in decades, families wait in lines like this in Congo's capital, Kinshasa, for potentially life-saving vaccines. The World Health Organization and its suppliers have shipped millions of vaccines to the region to stop the spread, but an Associated Press investigation has found fighting the outbreak has been undermined by mismanagement and logistical mistakes. When the WHO asked who had been receiving the vaccines, they discovered more than 1 million doses had mysteriously disappeared, others ruined by improper storage. There is no treatment for yellow fever, a virus that attacks the liver and kidneys. 20% of patients die.
When I fell ill, I noticed that my eyes and my urine were very yellow.
In the current outbreak, there are now about 5,000 suspected cases and have been at least 450 deaths across Angola and Congo.
Nowadays, there is a lot of illness because there aren't enough vaccines.
Congo fumigation teams spray for mosquitoes which transmit the disease as millions await vaccination. According to hundreds of pages of internal emails and documents obtained by the AP, the WHO is facing the problems it had during the Ebola outbreak of 2014, where more than 11,000 were killed.
A health alert is out for a deadly meningitis outbreak. It's hit LA and Orange counties. The virus is sweeping the gay and bisexual community. CBS 2's Serene Branson explains the urgency for vaccinations.
You might have a little arm soreness for a day or two after the vaccine.
Mark Muehlman of Orange decided to get the meningococcal vaccine.
Well, that's the way to protect myself from meningitis, and with it going around in the community, wanted to make sure that I was protected.
Orange County health officials are urging all gay and bisexual men in monogamous relationships or not to get the vaccine after a recent outbreak.
It's not been only men who have sex with men, but predominantly, and so that's the group we're recommending to come in and get the vaccine to try to help to protect them.
Detected in LA and Orange counties earlier this year, Orange County saw 3 cases in the past week, 6 cases since June. 2 previously healthy people have died.
We normally in the county of Orange have less than 5 cases a year. We've had 6 in the last 2 months, so that's clearly more than usual.
Dr. Helene Calvé says it's spread through the respiratory system and can cause infection in the brain and bloodstream.
The bacteria lives in the back part of your throat, and when you have very close contact with someone, you're close to them talking, maybe you're kissing, then those respiratory droplets, those secretions can get passed from one person to another.
The vaccine is already given to adolescents and those with compromised immune systems, but for men,
an all-out assault against Zika, attacking from the air and on the ground. New efforts in Florida today to wipe out the mosquitoes that carry the virus before the outbreak spreads even further. CBS 2's Weijia Zhang is live now in Miami with the latest. Weijia?
Christine, President Obama just wrapped up a press conference saying the Zika situation is getting critical, and he urged Congress to pass emergency funding. Spraying from the air to try to stop the Zika virus began early in the Miami area.
The mosquitoes in the traps all died, which means it was effective.
The target, the Aedes aegypti mosquito that's proved tough to get rid of. Aggressive efforts to fight mosquitoes on the ground are being ramped up. CDC Director Tom Frieden met Thursday with local officials to talk about the plan of attack.
I'm very impressed with how intensive the control activities are.
Health officials are investigating one case outside the area.
That is separate from the current 1 mile area, and we'll go through the same process where we'll talk to a lot of people, get samples from that area.
So far, 2,300 people have been tested for Zika across Florida, including 200 people in the Zika zone. The governor of Florida visited local businesses trying to reassure residents and tourists.
This is a safe state. Let's think about this. We have 1 square mile. 1 square mile north of downtown that we think we might have locally transmitted Zika.
Pregnant women are at greatest risk because the virus can cause devastating birth defects. Earlier this week, the CDC advised pregnant women to avoid the Wynwood area. Researchers are racing to develop an effective vaccine, and 3 experimental ones have already proved to be effective in monkeys, which is an encouraging sign as the tests move towards people. But researchers don't expect a fully approved vaccine until 2018.
A report from CNN revealed that dozens of military service members have contracted the Zika virus overseas. Citing a Pentagon spokesman as a source, the military stated 33 members have contracted the virus. The countries they were stationed in have not been identified. According to CNN's report, one of the service members is a pregnant woman. Major Ben Sacrison added that he did not have figures for how many of the service members have returned home. Major Sacrison also stated he did not know how many are still ill.
For joining us. Now, we are looking at rather frightening statistics. In just 3 weeks, more refugees arriving in Uganda than in the first 6 months of this year. Tell us more about the gravity of the refugee situation in South Sudan.
We're deeply concerned about the situation in South Sudan. As we speak, 60,000 people have left the country in the last 3 weeks since the fighting broke out in Juba. We are concerned that with the ongoing tensions and the possibility of escalating violence, even more people are going to flee. We're also concerned about 250,000 refugees who live inside South Sudan, for whom we are increasingly unable to provide protection and assistance because of the insecurity in the country. And I should say that overall, the number of South Sudanese refugees in the region has reached the 900,000 mark.
Now, by 2030, the growth of almost 130 million children will be stunted by a lack of food. That's according to a new report by Save the Children. The charity says those affected by war are most likely to suffer. Well, for more on this, we can speak to Catherine Richards. She's a senior nutrition policy and advocacy advisor at Save the Children. Good to have you with us, Catherine. It's worrying that the World Food Programme says that poor nutrition is killing more children every year than AIDS, malaria and tuberculosis combined. What other effects is malnutrition having amongst these children?
Yeah, thank you. So good nutrition is a matter of life or death, and we know that 45% of deaths of children under the age of 5 are being linked to malnutrition.
The United Nations says more than 2 million people have been displaced in South Sudan by an ongoing war since 2013.
Thank you all very much. Over 2 million people have fled their homes since December 2013. Some 1.6 million people are displaced inside South Sudan, with more than 900,000 people having fled to neighbouring countries. Just last month, more than 60,000 South Sudanese crossed the border into Uganda. Across the country, some 4.8 million people are severely food insecure, and 250,000 children are severely malnourished.
Rinjani hanya sekitar 800, 600, 800 meter. Jadi jatuh lagi ke dalam kawah karena kalderanya besar. Sama juga Gamalama, dia hanya 600.
Aktivitas Gunung Api Sinabung di Kabupaten Karo, Sumatera Utara masih tinggi. Asap putih pekat dari kawah Sinabung yang menandakan adanya suplai magma terus terjadi hingga saat ini. Hal ini membuat Gunung Sinabung masih berpotensi mengalami erupsi serta awan panas dalam waktu yang tidak bisa dipastikan.
A sniper on the loose in Phoenix. Authorities say the suspect has struck again, and tonight the urgent manhunt underway after a 9th shooting now linked to the case. Investigators confirming the shots came from the suspect wanted for killing 7 people so far. ABC's Clayton Sandell is in Phoenix.
On the streets of Phoenix tonight, a mystery gunman now being blamed for a 9th serial shooting. Police say this is their suspect. On July 11th, investigators believe he opened fire on a man and a 4-year-old boy in a car. They were not hurt.
We're concerned because he obviously doesn't even care who's in the car.
It is the latest in a series of shootings that have terrified this community since March. 7 people so far shot dead. The youngest victim, Malia Ellis, was murdered June 12th while sitting in a car in front of her home. 2 women, including Malia's mother, were killed too.
My daughter did everything with her kids. They shot, movies, whatever. They did it together.
Police believe the suspect is driving different cars, including a white Cadillac or Lincoln and a black BMW. But the lack of more clues has investigators frustrated.
What's even more frustrating, though, is we know somebody knows who's doing this.
And tonight, David, agencies like the FBI are helping work this case 24 hours a day. They've also increased the reward here to $50,000. David.
This summer, harmful algae blooms have been recorded across several parts of the U.S. Florida, Utah, Idaho, and California are among states who've experienced the infestation of cyanobacteria or blue-green algae, but the Florida coast has seen the worst of the outbreak. Several solutions are being reviewed, including one involving storage facilities to house water, eliminating the need to release it from Lake Okeechobee.
In Myanmar, an unknown disease has taken the lives of at least 30 children in the Naga region since June. The outbreak only seems to affect children below 5 years old and only shows the symptoms of difficulty in breathing. A local official said that the government has not sent any medical help since the mysterious disease started to affect the people. Until now, the disease remains unidentified and appears to be highly contagious. To prevent contagion, authorities have temporarily banned people from traveling around the area.
At Busch Gardens that has so many people outraged this afternoon. Police say a man picked up this famous pink flamingo at the park, lifting him over his head, then slamming that bird to the ground.
Yeah, they say that he thought it was a joke. They say he slammed that bird down and then started laughing afterwards. Now, we tried to get inside of Busch Gardens, but they are not letting us in. They say they're all extremely upset about this whole thing. I just want to tell you a little bit about this flamingo. Her name is Pinky, and we have some video of her from Busch Gardens. She was used in education and interacted with a lot of people. Now, she was even taken to TV studios for on-set demonstrations. Here's what we know happened. Witnesses tell us 45-year-old Joseph Correo reached into a pen that's fenced off. He grabbed that flamingo. He started yelling then that he got one. Folks.
Gaza for potentially life-saving vaccines. The World Health Organization and its suppliers have shipped millions of vaccines to the region to stop the spread, but an Associated Press investigation has found fighting the outbreak has been undermined by mismanagement and logistical mistakes. When the WHO asked who had been receiving the vaccines, they discovered in the current outbreak there are now about 5,000 suspected cases and have been at least 450 deaths across Angola and Congo.
Nowadays, there is a lot of illness because there aren't enough vaccines.
Congo fumigation teams spray for mosquitoes which transmit the disease as millions await vaccine. More than 1 million doses had mysteriously disappeared, others ruined by improper storage. There is no treatment for yellow fever, a virus that attacks the liver and kidneys. 20% of patients die.
When I fell ill, I noticed that my eyes and my urine were very yellow.
As Central Africa deals with its worst outbreak of yellow fever in decades, families wait in lines like this in Congo's capital, Kinshasa. According to hundreds of pages of internal emails and documents obtained by the AP, the WHO is facing the problems it had during the Ebola outbreak of 2014, where more than 11,000 were killed.
A health alert is out for a deadly meningitis outbreak. It's hit LA and Orange counties. The virus is sweeping the gay and bisexual